All right, y'all, we back with another video. So today we're actually going to be showcasing one of the free-to-play characters that we are going to be able to obtain in the future. So I figured I might as well just start doing some showcases on some of the characters that we are going to be looking forward to and aiming for in general. So let's get right into it. So the character we have here today is actually going to be Jogo, the absolute GOAT, the mad lad, the ancient curse. Holy. So as we can see here, Jogo is a mono blue DPS character, right? He's mainly revolved around his domain expansion. It's basically his specialty. He can activate his domain expansion with his ultimate, which then gives himself high crit rate, damage increase, deals high power curse damage to all enemies. And in addition, he has a guaranteed hit effect, so his attacks will always hit the enemy. So even characters like Gojo, who can, have like dodge the attacks from attack notification, he will be able to hit those enemies as well. So nobody is immune to this character. Now, the character can be obtained via a Phantom Medal exchange, so you will eventually be able to get him as you are constantly doing events and, collecting those Phantom Medals so that way you can exchange for him, right? Obviously, you're going to have two options in the beginning for Global, which is going to be Jogo and Hanami, but then later on, they will add Mahito, who, obviously is going to be a very, fan favorite character. So that's going to be one thing to note about this character, and the other characters you will be competing with, who they exchange for between your Phantom Medals. Now let's actually talk about his kit and what he can do, right? Because obviously you want to know what this character is capable of. He is a cursed character and he does take some time to actually obtain, so you won't be able to know at first glance, right? So we are here on the JP side, which we will be able to showcase him to all you players who haven't seen gameplay of him before, right? But first off, before we actually get into that, let's actually talk about what his kit does. So we have his first skill here, where it is called Ghost Lights, and what it does is it does 82% taijutsu damage and 82% jujutsu damage to the selected enemy. Keep in mind, on JP, he did get buffed, so that's why these numbers are a little bit different. But on global, those are going to be the numbers, the ones that I am telling you, and not the ones you see on screen. Next up, we have his skill 2, which is going to be Hellfire. This deals ranged combined damage of taijutsu and jujutsu, so basically curse and physical damage to the enemy. It's going to be 126% for both. Obviously, on the JP side, it's just going to deal jujutsu damage to an enemy. So it is going to be quite different later on when they do buff him. Next up, we have our skill 3. Our skill 3 is going to be Ember Insects. It's actually very powerful, but what it does is it deals 148% range jujutsu damage to one random enemy 3 times. Now, of course, when he does get his buff in the future, it will change to 200%. So that's going to be a lot of damage in one single attack. So it's actually a very powerful skill that you can use to actually clear out waves if need be. And since it's a 3-hit, a multi-hit skill, you can also use it on single targets. So you do have that flexibility from this skill. So it is actually very powerful on a character like this. Last but not least, out of the skills, we have his domain expansion, right? Coffin of the Iron Mountain. Now, we're going to be talking about, the stats and everything on global side, not on JP side. So do not pay him any mind to any of the visuals that you see here of the percentages on the actual domain over here on JP. It will deal 600% range jujutsu damage to all enemies, and then you also activate and expand your domain for 4 turns. While you are in your domain, you grant the guaranteed hit effect and the attack immunity notification to self. On top of that, you're going to be able to hit everybody who's in front of you. He will also deal 80% continuous jujutsu flame damage to all enemies. So every turn, you're going to be dealing that damage. You will also increase your own crit hit rate by 200%, so you'll always have like enough crit hit to actually crit every single turn. You will increase your own damage by 60%, and you'll also reduce your own damage received by 30%. On top of that, you'll recover your own curse energy by 60. So once you already use your domain expansion, you can't start charging for your ult again to, use your ult like back to back. That's just not how it works. And then after you are done, after your domain is about to end, you basically lose all your cursed energy. You will deplete all of it. So you want to make sure that you're just using all the high damaging skills, everything, because once he's in his domain, he's going to enable his damage even further. So you want to just make sure you're using all the skills that cost a lot of curse energy, especially this one, because it will proc and hit 3 times to random enemies if there's multiple mobs, and to a single enemy, it will hit that enemy 3 times. Now we have his passive, his first passive, which is they're called auto skills, is violent eruption. So if your own HP is 50% or below, you'll increase your own jujutsu damage by 25%. If you also pair that up with the memory that you get from his formidable foe, you're going to be able to do good damage if you try to get your HP below the percentage, because you will also get the passive effect from his memory. And then we have the second passive skill, which at the start of each wave, you'll recover your own curse energy by 10. This makes it easier to clear out waves and things when you are doing events that have multiple waves. Obviously, in single target, you're only going to be able to get 10, but that's still very good regardless, because that enables you and sets you up to be able to use any of your skills just at the start of the fight. So yeah, overall, good character. He can do good damage to a bunch of enemies in a single wave with his bees or whatever you want to call them, mosquitoes, flies, whatever. And then of course, once you activate your domain expansion, you'll do damage on your domain, and then you will self buff yourself to a point where he will do tons of damage even past the point of using his ult. He can also inflict the burn to all the enemies as well, so you're going to be getting that continuous damage that's going to be proccing each turn. One thing to note, which is kind of like a downside of the character, is you can't really heal him, because since he's a curse, healers or any heals like, you know, Shoko or Yuta, they will damage him instead of healing, so keep that in mind when you're actually playing this character. Now for skill level priorities, if you do obtain the character, the skill level priority is obviously going to be his ult, because that's going to be the one that you do damage with, and that's going to enable you. Then after that, it's going to be your skill 3, because like I said, after you ult, you're going to be able to get a bunch of cursed energy as soon as you start, and you're going to be able to use your highest cursed energy skills, especially when you are, since he is free, especially since if you do get a dupe on him, you're going to be starting out with roughly about 30 cursed energy or so you will be able to use this skill immediately as well if you do manage to get some dupes on him. So overall, this is going to be very good for him. And he also gets cursed energy from his passive, so you're going to be able to use his third skill easily. So definitely going to be one of prioritizing that after your ult. Then your next skill that you prioritize is your skill 2, because it does pretty good damage. And then your skill 1 is just okay, right? It's just okay. It's just an option that you use when you don't have cursed energy, but he has very good sustain on his cursed energy. And he does very good damage over multiple turns, not in just one singular turn. Just remember, when I do showcase this character, even though he's a free-to-play character that you're able to obtain, you're probably going to be asking, how does he compare to another mono blue DPS like Gojo? I'd say he's still under Gojo. Blue Gojo definitely will still do more damage output than him, just because Blue Gojo is able to buff himself. On top of that, his modifier is a bit higher on his ult. So you just can't really say that he's going to be better than Gojo. So Gojo is still better than him. On top of that, his burn isn't as strong as you would expect, especially with those modifiers. Ult takes a long time to charge as well. As you can see, it's 1,752 to be able to charge his ult, which is a lot. It's literally as long as Domain Expansion Megaman, who's also a very long charge to get his Domain Expansion. And that's why you're going to be going for a lot of the characters going forward that have Domain Expansions. They're going to need a lot of ult gauge. Unfortunately, out of all the cursed characters that we've received, Jogo is definitely the weakest of the 3. So obviously in the series itself, you can arguably say that he is probably the strongest, but in the game, he is the weakest. Very tough. All right, so we're here and we're going to be doing Chapter 12 Extreme version 2, right? EX2. They are going to be weak to blue, so the team that we are going to be using today is actually going to be Yaga, SSR Momo, Yuki, and then of course Panda, and then our friend will be the Jogo. Of course, the Jogo is going to be the one that is going to be showing us how it's done. Let me find the Jogo if I can find it. Right, so we do have here a 5 dupe Jogo and a 5 dupe obviously Jogo memory, which I did manage to find. So we are going to get right into this and actually kind of showcase what he can do. All right, so we're here in the fight. So the first thing we're going to be starting off with is not really using any buffs or anything. We're just going to be normal attacking. We're not going to be using much of the skills. The only thing we might use here is just the taunt from Panda. This way all 3 of them attack him, hopefully being able to kill him and knock him out immediately. And there he is. He's finally dead. So now we actually have Jogo out. Now we are going to proceed to just buff with our characters non-stop throughout the entire duration of the fight, and then same with using the memory unity whenever it is up. And then we're going to be using Yuki's curse energy regen, so that way we can regen a lot of our, you know, curse energy, so we can continuously keep spamming. And then we're going to just keep spamming the skill 3 of Jogo whenever we have it. So with this, they all should be dead here, or at least one will live. Nope, he killed them all. Tons of damage from Jogo, the GOAT. So we buff again, we buff again. We're just going to normal attack here, and then we're going to use another skill 3 by Jogo, because obviously if he kills the enemies, he's going to be getting cursed energy and all that stuff, and special gauge, etc., which does help him charge faster. Excuse me, not cursed energy, but like more ult gauge. And the skill 3 does a ton of damage, so this is probably going to clear out all 3 of them. Yeah, tons of damage. Easy clear. Easy clear. He just gets right through it. Straight to the point. So first up, we're just going to be buffing alongside using the memory that increases our damage dealt by 15% for 2 turns. Then we're going to buff again with Momo. We're going to be using the ult and the memory, so that way we can increase damage dealt for all allies by 30%. And then we're going to be using Jogo's memory alongside his domain expansion, so that way we can have it up immediately. This should kill out all the mobs. And then the only thing we really have to focus on is the actual boss itself. All right, so as you can see, we already killed out all the little mobs. Now all we're going to be doing here is just buffing and using the damage reduction on Yuki, so that way in case we do happen to need to get more cursed energy, he won't die. Because as you can see, we have tons of cursed energy on Jogo, because he will gain a bunch of cursed energy as soon as he does the domain expansion. And of course, after all of that, it will deplete to 0. So you just can use as much of his highest damaging skills as possible, which is going to be his skill 3. So we're just going to, you know, of course, protect ourselves, because we don't want him to die just yet. And then we're going to be using the skill 3 of Jogo. So as you can see, he just did 1,000,000 damage there. Luckily, I managed to protect my Yuki, so he didn't die there. We're going to buff again, and we're going to provide a curse energy regen just in case if he does happen to die here, which he shouldn't, because we should be able to break with our Jogo. Okay, we did not break. We actually missed. Luckily, he did attack Momo, and Momo literally dodged everything. Actual GOAT. We're going to buff again. We're going to buff again. This time we are actually going to use the charge rate, because the domain expansion should end here, and then we'll have it on the next turn. Or I could just wait. Either or is the same. We'll just buff, and then we'll just provide curse energy regen. Or actually, we'll even wait on that, just because once we deplete all our curse energy, I guess it doesn't really matter, right? Because we're going to just spam it whenever we have it up again. And he's broken. Domain expansion's over. We're just going to continue to keep buffing and just attacking the enemy the entire time. But now that it's over, we can actually start, you know, charging again. So we're going to use that memory as well. We'll do this to increase our Jujutsu damage, and then we'll buff with the memory, Jogo's memory, and then we will use his third skill, and this should be able to kill the enemy. So yeah, obviously we weren't able to just one-shot the stage because this is a very difficult extreme stage. So it does actually take some time to defeat it. Even using Blue Gojo, you just can't just one-shot it entirely. They will still live with just a bit of HP. So we went through it. Jogo, he's still very powerful, but not as strong as, of course, you know, a character like Blue Gojo. Blue Gojo is still going to be stronger than him in most cases. But as you can see, he can ult, do damage with his ult, and then as every turn keeps going on, you're still going to be doing tons of damage with all the crit rate that he receives. And then, of course, you just keep maintaining the buffs. So you usually want to have a team that can sustain his usage, and that can charge up his ult as quickly as possible. So it is recommended to have like a memory like Unity or having rare Inumaki on the team, so that way you can charge his ult fast, just because it is a very high max ult gauge. It is like 1700, so it takes some time to actually charge it up. But as long as you are, you know, managing on his skill 3 and clearing waves by himself, as you saw in the first and second wave, he was clearing the waves single-handedly. Like as soon as we got into wave 2, he just cleared them all out, and then we got a bunch of ult gauge just from killing the enemies and actually using his skill as well. So yeah, very powerful character, but unfortunately there's better characters like Blue Gojo, and you know, even in the future, Blue Inumaki when he releases on global. So there's just, unfortunately, he's just going to take the short end of the stick, just because most players should have Gojo. So yeah, still pretty good for a free-to-play character, but not as good as you would wish and hope for, considering, like I said, you have Gojo and he's redrawable ticket, so you will always be able to get him easily. So yeah, I mean, he's just an alternative. In the end of the day, you can use him as a backup in case Gojo leaves, and then boom, you have Jogo come in and do sweep up and do the rest. But you probably won't get his ult off, just because it does require a lot of ult charge. But yeah, anyways, that's basically going to be the Jogo showcase. I appreciate you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.